And let me tell you, this is a whole lot of sexy on the screen. How are you guys doing today? How you doing? How you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
doing awesome.
Ryan, are you ready to rock and roll?
I'm ready to see what you guys got.
Oh, yeah, we got something for you. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Are you immersed in a sea of business advice and education, but not sure what to embark on first? Instead of adding to the ocean of information, we're here to help you navigate it like a pro. The Wayfinding Growth podcast will help you take a deep dive into new actionable strategies, tools, and tactics to help you grow. So start charting a course for business growth as you explore a better way to grow further, faster, with your hosts, Remington Begg and George B. Thomas.
All right, and it is time, my friends, to set this a sail. We are going to call for all hands on deck. Let's hoist the sails and set a course for your company's growth and voyage. Man, I got the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, Remington Begg. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great, George. I'm super excited. This episode might have to be an orange episode. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we should have created special graphics because, well, you saw at the beginning, and I may not do that for the rest of the episode. Like, I'm surprised we didn't break our system by having all three of our mugs on there at once. But because we have myself, Impost Creative, Remington Begg, Impost Creative, and the ads guy, ninja guru, the one, the only, Ryan with us today, we are bleeding orange. I probably won't make new graphics. Ryan, how you doing today, sir?
Man, that is quite the intro. I just hope I can live up to it, I guess.
You know, I do what I can. I know you'll live up to it because you do what you can all the time, every time. Hey, Remington, you know what time it is. Why don't we go ahead and jump into this?
For sure. So Ryan, so today we're talking about, ads, Google ads, Facebook ads, like whatever other ads you want to talk about. But the idea is what we want to get into is just kind of throw in some knowledge about how we can focus and how companies can start growing with ads and what you kind of see as the tools that they need to get started.
Yeah, that's a big question. So most of the time when I see new clients on board with us, they are dabbling in ads. They're dabbling in Google AdWords. They're dabbling in Facebook ads. They might be boosting some posts here and there. And that's great. That's getting their feet wet. But when they take the next step, that's all about segmenting your audiences. That's trying new things. That's A/B testing. That's, testing new copy and new ad art, optimizing what's working and killing what's not. Just really about segmentation and testing and trying new things. That's probably, and having an expert on your team. I see a lot of people who are like, maybe it's the HR person, or maybe it's like the office manager who's like, I can do AdWords and I can do Facebook ads. It's like, yeah, you might be able to. But I think having an expert on call ready to make you rock is a very powerful weapon.
Yeah,
Cool. So,
I absolutely love those times, Ryan, when it's like, hey, Billy, the janitor, let's have him do our ads. And then people are wondering
Totally.
why they're spending way too much money. Ryan, I'm super curious because you mentioned like list segmentation and things like that. When one who, as an expert, is thinking about list segmentation and kind of creating the ads, are there specifically a couple tools that you think either make it easier, or do you think that people should be doing it in the native tools like Facebook, LinkedIn, Google? Like, talk us through that, what you've seen historically maybe makes the job a little bit easier.
Sure. So we obviously use a tool here called HubSpot. HubSpot's fantastic. It will create any list you want, any filter you want on that list. But something I use most of the time is forms. So let's say, using our own website for an example, we have, let's say, 10 different types of services under the design umbrella. There might be branding, there might be ad design, there might be logo design, website design, print design, right? Well, we have these 10 pages. Each one of those pages is going to have a different form. And so I'm going to send different messaging to somebody who comes in on a logo design form as opposed to a website design form. And then in HubSpot, I can easily segment those lists out, put them into the appropriate email drip campaign, and our sales team can easily follow up. They know what the person wants, and we can deliver it to them. So HubSpot's a great tool. Facebook also does a great job. They have a tool called Lead Ads, which basically the form happens right there on Facebook. That can go right into a spreadsheet, or it can also go right into HubSpot, and then you can market those people depending on your ad campaign, that way.
Sometimes it's super easy to go in advanced here, but for our listeners and our viewers, let's kind of rewind for a second. Let's talk about like why do we even need ads, or maybe even what are ads, and who's a good candidate for them. Let's start there as well. So that was super valuable, but I want to kind of just make sure we bring it back.
Google. Okay. Google and Facebook. Those are kind of the big guns that we're going to be talking about, I think, today. Google is intent-based. That's when somebody is actually doing a search on Google. I want this widget. And if you're doing a Google ad, the top 4 spaces are typically reserved for those ads. So when somebody says, I want to show up on the first page of Google, well, to do that organically is a lot of work, but you can flip a switch and show up on the first page of Google in those ad spot, that day if you really want to spend the money to do it. And then everything costs, depending on what position, what keyword, budgets definitely vary. On the other side of the coin, you have Facebook. You can target just about anybody with Facebook with their tools, and that is what we call interest-based. So they might not be actively looking for that widget, but they love that widget, that thing, and they probably like a Facebook page about it, and they might talk to their friend about it. And with big data and Facebook, they know that you're talking about that, and then all of a sudden that ad shows up in their newsfeed, and they're like, I didn't even know I wanted that. Now they get it. So it's two sides of a coin.
Cool. So when we're talking about those intent-based ads, so you're kind of expanding upon the fact that like someone's actually searching for something, like I'm looking for blue widgets, and then it shows up in search results. But those interest-based ads, you're kind of going more on the, I start looking at something, and then, or I have a certain interest. Maybe it's a football team, maybe it's by location, and we're just kind of introducing people. Is that kind of what you mean by the two?
Yes, exactly. Like Facebook, let's say it really comes down to buyer personas for Facebook, whereas on Google, it's kind of like, what the keyword is for your blue widget, where Facebook is, I want people between a certain age range in a certain zip code who likes, this thing because it's also related to your widget, and you can get really, really granular. And the more granular you get, the better conversions you get, and then the more money you make.
That's awesome. So talk to me a little bit about the research or the tools that you use in order to start identifying like what those ads are, or what those ads should be, or what those keywords should be. So what are some tools in your toolbox?
Free tools. Google AdWords does a great job. They have a tool called the Keyword Planner. You can go in there, type in your keywords. It will give you how much the estimated click will cost. It will tell you what keywords are related to your keyword. It's really good. We also use at Impulse Creative a great tool called SEM Rush. That takes things to another level. You can group keywords. You can throw in different domain names and see who's targeting what. You can kind of look at your competition and see what they're spending on paid versus what they're kind of doing organically. But I would say SEM Rush is probably the biggest tool I use. Yep. And I just spend a lot of time in there researching, is this word related to this word? If I put red in front of car versus car red, is that search going to be different? Typically it is. I think we just talked about the other day how, adding the word FL to the end of Naples, it was like the difference between 50 searches and 800 searches. And typically I was like, that can't be right, because usually you add extra to a phrase and it goes down.
Yeah, and it refines it.
So that kind of caught me by surprise. So you got to do your research. You never know what people are actively searching for.
Cool. So when we talk about Facebook, then when we're digging into Facebook, and you talked about the demographics, you threw out a couple examples of some of the demographics. And I know I led with like location, but can you tie into some of the examples of what you've done in regards to drilling down?
Yeah. So let's say we have a company that sells high-end umbrellas, right? And we know that their typical sale is going to be anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000. That's a pretty high-end umbrella versus a typical person who might spend maybe $100, maybe $200 on an umbrella. So to make sure my ads get a nice ROI and I'm reaching the right people, I can start to narrow down my Facebook audience by, let's say, their net worth or where they live, their home value. And it once you get into this Facebook targeting, it will literally blow your socks off. And it's really cool. I mean, you can go like, do they have kids? Do they not have kids? Do they belong to a gym? Do they not belong to a gym? It's just anything you want, you can probably find it in there. And the more relevant you make that audience, the better targeted your products are to them.
Cool. Very awesome.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny because specificity, I feel, always wins the day. You've said that in one way or another, Ryan, like several times in the last couple minutes of getting more specific. And I think one tool that we missed as we were talking about this is just this, people, like your brain and understanding the customer and understanding the problem that they're facing, and the solution because you've been providing the solution for like years, if not decades. I mean, shoot, you could be a family business. You've been around for 90 years, which, by the way, if you're selling shade, that sounds like some good shade. I can't wait to see those ads. And let's just do this while I'm here on the screen. Let me tell you, this episode of Wayfinding Growth, as awesome as it is brought to you by, well, us, Impulse Creative, and the workshops that we do. No matter if it's a video workshop, a sales workshop, or a HubSpot Launchpad marketing workshop, we can help your team work better together, work faster, and understand what they should be doing in the digital landscape. So make sure you reach out to us. You know how to get a hold of us. He's at Remington Big. I'm at George B. Thomas on the Twitters. And you probably know our emails because you've been listening for years, or at least 13 or 14 episodes. Remington, the next section is charting your course. So let's go ahead and dive into that.
Yeah. So Ryan, when we're thinking about getting started with ads, maybe it's with an agency or maybe it's not. Who needs to be the captain of the ship? And what I mean by that is, who really needs to own this to start driving the engagement?
That's a great question. So, typically you're going to want somebody who has expertise. So as George just brought it up, I forgot, I have been doing this for a while, and I take for granted that I know what to look for when I'm going in and doing research. Somebody who, like we mentioned earlier, you don't really want to put in an office manager or somebody like that because this is an investment. This drives revenue. So if you're a company that can't afford an agency, I would go out and find a solo person who knows marketing. And then during that interview process, pick their brain. Can you set up an ad campaign? Do you know the difference between, intent-based and interest-based? And if they can't start to answer these questions, then, keep looking for that person because it's super important. You know how to build this stuff for you. When it comes to an agency, kind of the same thing. Make sure they have a seasoned expert on there. But then when you're getting into an agency, though, you're going to have ad art created. Does the agency have a designer? So there's all these different things that come into play. So kind of when you go at an agency, I'm not just trying to, do this because we work at an agency or anything, but you get this group of people that's typically probably the cost of maybe a hire or two in your own organization, but this is what they live and breathe every single day. It's design, it's copywriting, it's marketing. So I totally got off track with your question, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about that.
Cool. So when we're thinking about that then, and we kind of dig into this, like who needs to own it, what you're saying is you got to make sure you understand it. And you got to make sure that you have that you bring on someone that either does and lives and breathes it every day, or choose an agency to do that, right? Sound good?
Yeah.
So to kind of expand upon that, the one other thing that I've seen, and I'm hijacking this because we're all agency folk here, is that a lot of times people get a really bad taste in their mouth because these ads don't work, right? And usually, I know we've had this conversation before. It's been around because the targeting wasn't set up right. So really have someone that can own it, that knows what they're doing, because that money you spend with an agency might be a lot less than you would waste without talking to one.
It's important to know that, at the end of the day, the boss or the customer, is always right. But, it's good to take their feedback. But, if I set up an ad campaign and it doesn't hit its mark, we pivot very quickly. And I think we've gotten very, very good at pivoting and figuring out, diagnosing a problem, fixing the problem, and then making the customer happy. And I learned this up at our account management day up in HubSpot, and talking to those HubSpotters, and they're like, a lot of times when we're setting up campaigns, we hardly ever get something that rocks out of the gate. And when they said that, I was like, all right, because it's all about testing. Your research can put you in the right direction, but it's trying to pinpoint what works and what doesn't. And as the marketer or the agency, you have to sell that thought process to the person who pays the bills. Because when they come back and question you and say, why isn't this working? I just spent $5,000 on AdWords and we got 2 leads. You're going to have to sell, figure out what's wrong very quickly, and then, go in a different direction that, works. So you are the expert, but there's somebody else, who's paying the bill. So you have to work hand in hand.
Yeah, perfect. Ryan, you just sparked something in my mind that I definitely think our viewers and listeners should pay attention to, and that is, you said the word pivoting, and I started to think about my boys Dennis, you, and Logan, and they do Facebook ads, and they have this strategy that they do $1 a day, and what they're doing $1 a day for is because it's minimal investment, but they can start to see when one of those ads turns into a unicorn, and you can always dump more cash into something that is showing itself to work versus what a lot of people do. In Remington, going back to what you said, a bad taste in your mouth, is you dump like $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 into a crappy ad, and you're like, oh, this ad stuff doesn't work. And that's not the fact. It's that the other things around the ad platform didn't work. And the other thing, too, about this is whether you contact us or don't contact us, the one thing that I will say that it would be nice if you had available to you is, well, the power to open up the purse. Because if you're trying to do ads and you don't have any purchasing decision power, then man, it's going to make for like a rough haul, and we're going to talk to you, and then you're going to talk to your boss, and your boss is going to get confused, and then you're going to come back to us with questions, or whoever you're working with. So maybe you should be the decision maker in this process as well. Ryan, when you think about ads and people trying to do ads or doing ads, and we call this where are most companies docked, like, do you think most are doing it? Most aren't? Most are doing it great? Most of them suck? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
It looks like most companies have tried and are trying. Some are getting good results. I can definitely tell, in my own, let's say, Facebook feed, who's doing it, who's not doing it. I see people come and go because obviously I think they might be missing the mark. I see a lot of people, let's just get our stuff out there. And, that's great for awareness, right? But when you're spending, X amount of dollars, you want to see a return on that. And so I think that's maybe one of the biggest, novice mistakes is let's just push out a blog post. I was like, that's great. The blog post is super awesome. It's probably super valuable, but you're going to spend how much money to promote that blog post when the blog post isn't really or designed to give you ROI. A landing page is designed to give you ROI. So I think that's I see a lot of people making that mistake a lot of times. So it's definitely, you have to have a design strategy to get your money back out of it, and not just, because, these paid ads can be a black hole of ad dollars. So it's super particular to test. And like what you said earlier, start small. You can always scale up. And that's something I have to even remind some of our clients that want to dump, a lot of money at it. And I'm like, whoa, let's just start small. And let's see what works, and we'll pivot and we'll scale.
When we're talking about these guys that might want to get started, or these companies, in regards to like getting started or starting to think about the ads, where should they be headed? Like, what should they start thinking about before they actually pull the trigger for ads?
If I was a company thinking about ads, I would definitely want to see, I got to go back to the ROI, but there's a process that we do, and I want to know what their goals are, right? So if they want to sell 10 cars, and each car is $20,000, but it takes, their cost of acquisition is, let's say $5,000. Are they going to make $5,000 off of all this ad spend? And so I have to say, what's their budget? How much is their cost of acquisition? And then I have to figure out, cost per lead, and then figure out all these different conversion rates. And then without even spending $1, I can go into the numbers and see, I can typically see how much a click costs. And then I know that maybe about 7% of all clicks turn into a lead. And then of all leads, I can kind of tell, let's say on average, 15% of leads turn into a customer, and so on. And then out of all these little numbers and chains and hooks and whatever you want to call it, I can kind of figure out if they're going to make money or if they're not going to make money. And I think anybody who's looking to start to spend ads needs to figure out this chain to make sure that the amount they want to spend on their ads is going to come out the other end in profits. And you got to know that before you just jump in with, crazy feet on fire. I don't know.
And I'll tell you this, viewers, listeners, what Ryan just said in so many words is, it's time to get nerdy. You got to know your numbers. You're going to go into your cave. You're going to have a Rain Man moment. Underwear, Walmart, $3.99. And you're going to compile all the data. And then you're going to be like, I am an ad king. I'm about to rock this out. Speaking of being an ad king, Ryan, a lot of the viewers, the listeners, they want tactical, actionable things that they can do. And so whether they're doing it with themselves or they're going to pick an agency or a solopreneur to do it with, what are maybe 2, 3, feel free to do more than that, but 2 or 3 things that today they could get started with and think about or do to start rocking out on ads?
If they're just looking to get started, just jump in. Facebook has a great, tool. It leads you through awareness, decision, app downloads, depending on what your goals are, just start to use the tools. And even if you don't click, publish your ads, you can start to see how everything works and connects. And especially Facebook, you can start to see your reach numbers. It'll give you estimated reach numbers, how many leads or clicks you might get without spending a single dollar. And then, that will start to make your brain spin on like, oh, maybe I should do this because it's higher margins or whatever. And you just got to get in and try it. And like you said earlier, just, put $5 a day at it, see what kind of works. Don't overextend yourself. But once you, a lot of time it comes down to time with these people. So I always say, right, it's good to, jump in a little bit. But, if you're, a business owner and you want to jump in, you should always know all the different parts of your business, but you're not going to have enough time. You're going to have to worry about 10 million other things. So hiring that person, hiring that agency is, it's what you're going to probably end up doing just to make sure you don't lose your hair like me and Remington. So it's just like, just play with it, know what's going on just so you're not, a little dangerous, and then, go full tilt and get some good people.
Now we get to talk about our monthly deep dive newsletter. I'm really excited about this because I just saw the draft of it going out. Each week, we are going to send you all the links and tools, free downloads, resources that you need to crush your company's success. So once a month, George and I are going to send out this message to you, and it gives you a great opportunity to give some feedback to us. So make sure you sign up and subscribe. It's on every single page at wayfindinggrowth.com. So check it out and let us know what you want to hear about.
And Remington, you know that I'm always excited when you talk about that newsletter, because that means, yes, folks, that means it's time for Captain killing it. And that's where we talk about somebody who's killing it on the interwebs, either in a good or bad way. And I want to say, because we're talking about ads, and yes, we have had some just blatant like, hey, at Impulse Creative, we do this thing. Call me. No, I'm just kidding. I also wanted to mention on the Captain Killing It, another group of folks, because it's funny, Ryan, you mentioned you might want to go get like a smaller person or an individual or smaller company if you can't afford an agency. Foxwell Digital is killing it on the interwebs with Facebook ads. Now, I'm being a little specific, but Facebook ads, there is Andrew Foxwell and Gracie Foxwell. They are great friends of mine. I've seen them several years at Social Media Marketing World, put on by Michael Stelzner, who it might be one of the most amazing
Shout
events.
out.
Yeah, shout out. One of the most amazing events. I always love going to that one. That one and Inbound, my two favorite. But if you're looking to go into specifically Facebook ads and you don't have the budget for a typical agency with multiple people working on your account, you might want to check out Foxwell Digital because they're amazing.
George, can I add one more thing after Foxwell? There's this company that I've been seeing all over Facebook. They're called Nantucket Brokers. And man, I can see a full funnel happening in their ads. You know, they're going high end, giving away guides of ferries and restaurants because the research said that's where the traffic's at. And then they funnel them to this lookbook, which is a sales qualified lead for them. I'm like, you guys got it going on. I don't know who's doing your stuff, but mad props.
Hey, they must have some real smart people doing their stuff. Have you been to Nantucket? You should probably
I haven't.
go. No,
it's definitely on my list.
Remington, is it on your list? What's on your list? Maybe you want to go visit the Bermuda Triangle.
So cool. So Ryan, we kind of alluded to some of this before. What makes this impossible for companies? Like, and this kind of goes to the, to what we were talking about before. Like, what kind of gets in front of people's way, or maybe they get in their own way? But I'll let you kind of answer that.
It all comes back down to time. So if it's a small business, that everybody in that small business is going to wear 3 or 4 hats. They're not going to be able to focus on one thing. And that's definitely going to slow things down. I wouldn't say impossible, but it's definitely going to hamstring, your progress. It's gonna be a wind in your face. It's not going to be, very
cool
good.
Summer breeze.
I was trying to come up with a nautical term where the wind's like right, on your bow, so you're not going anywhere.
I think they're just stuck on the dock of mediocrity.
There you go.
So good.
So, Ryan, and it's kind of piggybacking a little bit, almost asking the same thing, but not really, because there are people who finally decide to go ahead and go for this. When they attempt this voyage, why sometimes does it just end really, really ugly?
I hate to say it, but I have had some failures, and it just sometimes it doesn't connect. Like maybe it's a product that's just not designed to be sold online. Maybe it's, something like furniture, or maybe it's, emergency plumbing. Nobody's going to find an ad and want to call a plumber, because their toilet's backed up. They're going to Google it really fast, and they're going to say emergency plumber. They're going to find a number, and they're going to call it. So an ebook's not going to work, a webinar's not going to work, an ad's not going to work, a Facebook ad's not going to work. A Google ad might work really good because it's intent-based. They show up on the top, emergency plumber. But sometimes, a product just might not be the right fit for a particular set of advertising medium. So, direct mail's still out there. People still use it. It obviously still works for a certain niche of people. If it doesn't work, you might want to explore other things besides digital. Always A/B tests. But yeah, there's definitely some failures out there.
What I heard you say was that you got to pay special attention to the intent versus the awareness-based advertising. So Facebook ads won't work for an emergency business, but Google could be really strong in that. It's just analyzing and testing.
Correct.
So that's some pretty good advice and some pretty good things to check out for. Cool. So who's the pirate to watch out for in this whole scenario? So let's say you want to get started with ads, and then like, what is the thing that could really just sink your ship?
Sink your ship. Man, not having the right message in the right audience. If you don't know that, and you could hit that, a lot of people just hit that boost button. That boost button just kind of like it's like a shotgun. It just goes out into the wherever.
They should call it the boom button.
Oh man, you can blow some serious dough on that, right? Because Facebook's not stupid. They're in it to make some money, right? So you hit that boost button. They're like, how much do you want to boost it? They're like, man, let's boost it for $500. I really like this blog post I just wrote. So, I mean, you definitely got to be, careful on that kind of stuff. But, that would probably be a pirate, because I've heard many people talk about, I'm just not getting anything on my ads. I'm throwing all this money at it. And I'm like, well, your audience is wrong, or your message is wrong. So, that's the pirate. R.
Very nice. R. Very nice. So Facebook, whenever that boost button's probably pressed, they probably have a cha-ching bell that goes off in their office for sure.
Yeah, there's some guy named Danny. He walks over and he like ding 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 ding. Somebody just hit the boost button. And a small tribe in Ethiopia of 500 watched this video on their mobile devices because you boosted your post. I don't know, but anyway, it's time for us to set sail. Look, Wayfinding viewers, listeners, make sure, depending on what platform you're engaging with us, if it's YouTube, make sure you go and hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for instant notifications. If you are watching or listening to us on iTunes, that's right, I said watching or listening because we do have audio and video podcasts on iTunes. Make sure you leave a rating and review so that we know that you're part of the community. Go to the page, let us know, sign up for the newsletter. We're about to send it out so you can get all that valuable information. And, let us know where you want to go. Like, what topics do you want us to cover? What would help your business leave the dock of mediocrity? Until next time, make sure you're doing all you can do to leave the dock of mediocrity and set sail into the sunset of your success.